So yesterday, NFL reporter Adam Scefter shared some more information on the Brandon Aiyuk, San Francisco 49ers situation. It was shared here on NFL and ESPN's YouTube channel, and here's what Schefter had to say.
So, Schefty, what is the latest?
Well, Hannah, the 49ers do not want to and do not intend to trade Brandon Aiyuk, despite the fact that he has asked the team officially to move on from him. And really what this comes down to is there is a disagreement on his value. The wide receiver market this offseason has shifted in front of everybody's eyes. If you look at all the wide receiver deals that have gotten done and the average annual salaries paid to wide receivers, you will see that the number has grown very much and very quickly to the point where what the Niners are offering Brandon Aiyuk isn't in there. The top guy right now, Justin Jefferson, at about $35 million. You have other wide receivers on that list, like A.J. Brown. You have Devontae Smith getting done at about 26.5. Jalen Waddle, 28. There are some of the numbers that you're looking at. So the idea here is, where do you slot in Brandon Aiyuk on this chart? And I think all these receivers in the Niners' minds would be north of what Brandon Aiyuk should be paid right now, when Devontae Smith is below them at about $26.5 million. Plus, Brandon Aiyuk has 1 year left on his deal. The Niners can tag him after that particular time, and so they have his contractual rights for at least this season and more if they opt to use it that way.
So it sounds like the 49ers do not intend to trade Brandon Aiyuk, which makes perfect sense because the 49ers are in complete control of the situation. They have the leverage over Brandon Aiyuk. And it's unfortunate for Brandon Aiyuk because if he was, let's say, on the Lions and was instead in Amon-Ra St. Brown situation where he wasn't a first-round pick, so he, of course, couldn't be franchise tagged, there would be better chance, I think, that Aiyuk got the kind of money that he deserves, because I do think he is in that upper range of receivers. But with the situation Brandon Aiyuk is in, as we've discussed on this channel in the past few days, he has no leverage, and the 49ers can decide to franchise tag him after this season. And considering we're about to, getting near training camp, getting near the start of the season, it's not really a great time for the 49ers to trade Brandon Aiyuk. If they were going to trade him before this season, they should have done it before the draft. They could have, gotten that draft capital and used that on players who could help them in their 2024 season, because there's no doubt the 49ers are still in, I guess you could say, the Super Bowl window. They have lots of pieces right now that is going to make them competitive in 2024. And so it doesn't really make that much sense unless you get a crazy offer from another team to trade Brandon Aiyuk at this time. And when you look at Amon-Ra St. Brown with the Lions getting $30 million per year, I think when you compare those two teams, the Lions losing Amon-Ra St. Brown would hurt them much more than the 49ers losing Brandon Aiyuk, because outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown and the Lions, they have Jamison Williams there, who last year had 79 receiving yards in 3 different games. The 49ers, on the other hand, have Deebo Samuel as well, who can, I think, pick up the load there. And the Lions, of course, do have Sam Laporta, a pretty solid backfield with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. But the 49ers also, Christian McCaffrey, they drafted first-rounder Ricky Pearsall, who is dealing with an injury right now. Not sure the extent of that. They have George Kittle. And so I don't think it would be the end of the world if the 49ers didn't have Brandon Aiyuk. Where with the Lions, I think that they needed to try to keep Amon-Ra St. Brown around. And because the Lions couldn't franchise tag him after the season, they didn't really have that much leverage over St. Brown, where if they didn't pay him, he would have made it to free agency and another team could have outbid them, which I don't think they would have allowed, because he's a very, impactful part of their team. Or with the 49ers, they can tag him. And even let's say they decide to, not give Aiyuk a new deal, an extension. They've already offered $26 million per year. And if Aiyuk doesn't want that, he, can choose to try to sit out the season. But if he sits out the season, he has to, the season doesn't basically count for him, and he'd have to be back on the same contract next year. So he can't really sit out. It would just hurt himself in a big way. So I don't think he would actually sit out the season. And so he doesn't really have that much more he can do besides, trying to get traded here, asking to be traded. But I don't think the 49ers, they clearly don't feel the need or, the need to trade Brandon Aiyuk. And so I think the situation is, a little bit overblown when it comes to the chances of him being traded. Of course, there's still a small chance, but I think that This is just Aiyuk's strategy to try to get more money. I don't think it's going to end up working out for him. And so I'm curious to see sort of how this all plays out. And let's say after the year, the 49ers decide that they want to let Brandon Aiyuk, leave. They could technically just allow him to become a free agent. I don't see why they would, because they can franchise tag him, and even if he doesn't want to come back and they don't want him back, they can tag him and then trade him. And I don't see why they wouldn't do that when they can get maybe a first rounder, second rounder in return if they were to tag and trade him, which the Packers did back in I think it was after 2022 or 2021 with the Packers. The Packers tagged Devontae. They didn't get a first and second round pick. So I don't see why you let a player of his caliber just walk when you can tag him. You could tag and trade him after the season, get him playing for you in 2024 and then move on if you want, if the relationship is too broken at that point. But just wanted to share that information. You want more NFL content, feel free to subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys next time.